So we have next speaker, Deepak, right? Deepak was one of our community members. He was coming there every time, and all of a sudden he goes, I want to present, I want to help people, because he was there, people were asking a lot of questions on estimations. He ran a couple of games last time. Again, there was a couple of questions about estimations. It's his first talk, and then again estimations come in the picture. So this is going to be a beginner level talk. I'd say beginner to intermediate, not very advanced. Deepak, why don't you come in? So it's not that we bring in international speakers and speakers that present in big conferences. Anybody's interested, we have slot for you as well, okay? So that's how, it's an open community, right, if you will. Deepak, welcome Deepak with a round of applause. Right, it is going to be estimation and prioritization for beginners. We have 30 minutes from now. 35, fine, Deepak? Okay, 45, right? Because the teas are here. I don't want them to get cold, okay? But, okay, I've said that. Deepak, as long as you want to take.
Yeah, as long as I want to take,
right.
When I'm able to finish it in 35 minutes, right?
He estimated already.
Right.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Deepak. I work as a senior agile consultant at a company called Solutions. These are my contact details. So today what I'm going to talk about is estimation and prioritization for beginners. Over the past 3 or 4 Scrum Bangalore events, during the retrospectives, a point came up constantly, very frequently, saying that we are moving into agile, we really don't know how to estimate, or there is a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of confusion when we first move to agile and start estimating. So this was an exercise that I had done with some of my teams, so I thought why not share it with you guys as well. So it's mostly intended for beginners who are either transforming from non-agile methodologies to agile and want to understand how estimation is really done when it comes to agile, or teams who are not really able to perceive the idea of relative estimation, complexity-based estimation, Storypoints-based estimation. So, yeah, this is what we're going to do. I'm not really very good at talking, so all I can do is facilitate an activity. So, we will learn relative estimation and prioritization through a small activity. Okay, so before we begin, takeaways for you would be, if you're a beginner, a very brief and a very high level activity through which you can learn relative estimation. Not really digging deep into what relative estimation is, how do you do it, not a lot of detail. And if you're a practitioner, probably you might want to take this back to your teams and help them with this method. So before I begin, why do you guys think we need to estimate, right? Let me give you a practical example that most of us would have faced, right? If you're getting a house built, we contact a contractor. We tell him what we want, what we expect from the house, and there is a conversation that happens. And after that, you ask him for, you want to know how much it's going to cost. But does anyone have an experience where what was discussed there, the amount of time or money that was discussed there, was the actuals? Anyone has that experience? If yes, I would love to work with that contract. So when it comes to estimates, right, this is how you should also see it. It is a starting point. The moment, the point in you talking to the contractor, telling him what your requirements are, getting an estimate from him, was for you to understand or build a platform on which both of you could start work. Nothing really beyond that, right? And just one thing that I wanted to point out, as we are talking about estimates, there is a whole buzz. If you want to go back and search for the hashtag no estimates, please do that. Some really interesting conversations, some really interesting thoughts on why people should not and do not want to provide estimates. Nothing really to do with this talk though, but I thought I'd share with you. Okay, let's now do a small exercise. Okay, let's group in 5s. Just turn around with your neighbors.
Group in 5.
Form groups of 5 now. And what you will really need to do is together arrange these planets in the order of the increasing cycle. So the smallest planet goes first, the largest planet goes last. Okay, yeah, we can take that argument later on.
And can you write for Google or something?
Sorry?
No Google.
No Google. No Google.
From the smallest to the largest.
Smallest to the largest. Take a couple of minutes, group together and
Order that increasing size.
let's not debate on whether Pluto is a planet or not.
We got all of the Peter is a Peter.
Yeah, that's it.
So order them in increasing size. Pluto's the smallest. Pluto's definitely the smallest.
Yeah, actually it is now not one.
You're getting into semantics. I think it wasn't, and then it was, and then it wasn't.
Yeah, I think the smallest one will be so I guess it is like that too.
I reckon Neptune's quite small, and so is Mercury, isn't it?
I think it's next to Mars.
Mercury's the nearest to the Earth. I think Neptune's quite small, isn't it?
Give us some clues.
So you see what we started doing there? We're using relative estimation, so we said the Earth is similar to Mars, so they're going to be. So maybe what we should do is just write them all, instead of what we're trying to do now, just write them all down and then just put a number against them. 5. If we're points,
No, which is the smallest? Or which goes first?
Smallest is Pluto.
Pluto is not in the solar system anymore.
And not an asteroid.
That doesn't be found to be smallest because our group goes from
Okay, what was second? Mercury? What was third?
Neptune.
No consensus? Okay.
last is Jupiter.
Good. Do we have a consensus there? Yeah. Do we have a consensus on what is 8? Everyone agrees?
Seven is Uranus.
All of us agree?
Yes.
You've got a big Uranus.
Okay. Sixth is Neptune. You're not googling it, right? All of a sudden I see a lot
At
of
least you are doing
confidence.
right.
Yeah, that's good line. Otherwise we don't answer.
Okay, 3, 4, 5.
Now 3 and 4 is Earth and Mars almost. Mars, Earth and Venus.
Venus is bigger, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Third is Venus.
Third is Venus.
Great.
Great. We finished with this. Okay. I don't want to shock you guys, but the order is not right. But the good news is that it does not really matter. We are not astrophysicists. At the end of the day, we go back, implement Scrum or Gemini. So what's this got to do with estimation? Now, relative. Exactly. Can some of you share the kind of conversations that you had when you were estimating?
We knew what's the smallest and we also knew what's the biggest. Okay. So we knew what's the boundary and everything falls in between. And then we were comparing.
Go wrong there? Mostly you're accurate with the smallest. Mostly you're accurate with the largest. Right?
So we tried to do it relatively, so we thought Jupiter was probably 40 times bigger than Pluto. And so we gave that 40, Pluto 1. then we said Mars and Earth are about 5 times the size of Pluto, so we gave them 5.
Bang on. So this is really what we need to do when we go back and try to size the tasks that we have. And the conversation that you guys had here was should be the kind of conversations that you go back and have. Right? See, for example, you don't know their masses, you don't know what their diameters are, you don't know anything about the size. But we did attempt to arrange them, right? Now, when you go back to your day-to-day tasks, when you have a big list of user stories, a big list of tasks and epics to churn out sprint on sprint, and you want to size them, probably this method is going to help. What you could do is if you could list out all the user stories and tasks that you want to size and choose which is the smallest, put it first, and you know what is the largest, put it at the end. So you have a benchmark for the smallest, you want to call it extra small, you have a benchmark for extra large. What you do next is this goes out, then what you probably might want to do is look at the others and see if it is probably as unknown, as uncertain as this. If yes, then add this here, right? So this goes out. What is left? Is it bigger than this, or is it smaller than this? Yes, put it here. The same thing you can kind of iterate through multiple times to find out which is the biggest that we have, which is the smallest that we have. Compare them with the items that you already have in the list here. That should probably give you a fair idea. Now this is problematic if it's the first or the second time that you're doing it, but don't worry about it. Nobody gets it right the first time, right? We are iterative. What is important is that we learn iteration over iteration, not that we become perfect, right? It's not that we want to get our estimates right for the first time. That is a little more dangerous than we telling we'll learn from our mistakes and go back and estimate better every time. Because if we do that, there is a point in time when we end up with great estimations. Then we end up with very good estimations or near perfect estimations, whatever you want to call it, whatever your managers will want you to call it. But if you start with the idea that I want to give a perfect estimate, the odds are that you will do wrong. So this is probably a guideline with which you can start. And a couple of other thoughts. How do you typically estimate an agile is story points, t-shirt sizing, ideal days. Story points is when you say it is in this order of complexity. A 1 story pointer, 2 story pointer, 3, 5, 7, you typically follow Fibonacci series. But of course each team has its own method, its own way of calculating story points and even ordering them. But typically again, you size them relative to each other, you give a number. T-shirt sizing is that you bucket them into different buckets, starting from extra small to extra large to huge, whatever. And ideal days is ideally how long it's going to take me or the team to complete this task. For example, today, when I came here, when I drove from my house to here, ideally it should have taken me 30 minutes. But it did not. It took me more than 45 minutes. Multiple reasons, right? So ideal days is again how much you think is the ideal time required to finish it. So all these again are, as I said, a starting point for conversations, right? And some of the things that you need to consider when you're sizing them is complexity. That is how much you know of the problem. There is a user story or there is a task or an epic. How much of that is known to you? And how much of the solution is known to you? And what is the order of magnitude of the work that is done? To give you an example, in the traditional world, right, how would you actually estimate? You would look at the task, break it down, or you would look at the user story, break it down to task. Say each of these would take 2 hours, 3 hours, 8 hours, sometime, right? But what actually ends up happening is, if your estimate was 10 hours, you mostly would take 12 hours, 14 hours, 15 hours. And then your manager would come back to you and say, what you estimated for 10 hours. You tell him, no, there was something in the code that I had not anticipated or something that I did not know about. So the idea here is don't estimate on what you think is the amount of work that's required, but estimate based on what you know and what you don't know. And most often teams do not associate an hour, time or a number to it. That is a measure of time because it is mostly taken as a commitment. If I tell my manager this is a 10-story pointer, they tell okay, it's probably the biggest that our team has worked on. But if I tell him it's going to take 12 hours, at the end of the 12th hour, he's going to expect me to deliver it. Right? So always refrain from using hours or anything that is a measure of time. Yeah, again, estimates are estimates. They are not a real approximation, guesstimates. These are all the various terms that people have coined or came up with in order to convince managers or other people that don't hold me responsible if I don't give it at the end of the day. The most important thing or most important reason for an estimate is that it becomes a starting point for a conversation, and that is all that it is intended to do, and that is what we need to understand, and that's what we need to make our management, program office or stakeholders understand, that it's an order of magnitude of complexity. We can talk based on these factors. So that's pretty much what I would talk about estimation. Just another small thing, if you were to estimate how many candies are there in this jar, what would you do? You would probably look at the amount of candies that is visible, then assume the density is pretty much same and then estimate based on that. But later on you might realize that the jar is following same. So estimation goes for a toss, but that's okay, you still come back and learn. Right? That is more important. Okay, that's pretty much about estimation. I know it's probably 30,000 feet above the ground. Maybe in our future meetups we can talk more about it, or in case you guys have any queries, we can catch up with this. Now coming to our next very interesting topic, prioritization. Yeah, this is Dilbert asking his manager, which is it that he needs to stop working on? Whether he needs to stop working on essential, critical or must-haves. This is pretty much a situation that we encounter almost every day in our day-to-day work. Right? So again, a small activity to kind of wake you guys up and also understand how prioritization is. This is more of an activity to help us understand what are the kind of conversations that we need to have when we are prioritizing our product backlog. So again, can you group it to 5, and this is called the Noah's Ark exercise. For those who don't know what Noah's Ark is, in a very short term, in a very brief explanation, Noah was asked to carry all the species into a ship because the earth was getting flooded with water. He would have to be on that ship for an indefinite period of time until all the water died down, and he had to come back and vegetate or populate the earth back with all the species of animals that he carried. Now imagine you're Noah, put yourself in his shoes, and there are 5 items that you are allowed to carry with you on a ship. You don't know how long it's going to take, and you don't know what else, what are the dangers, what are the problems you would face when you're in the ocean. You have a ship, you have 5 items that you can take. Now, as a group, can you decide on what are those 5 items that you want to take?
Can you put the deal button for me, please?
Sorry?
Can you go back a slide?
And remember, it's not categories. For example, food is a category, not an item. Meat, chicken, for vegetarians, salad is an item.
high school to fill in.
And they're vegetarian, non-vegetarian.
That's up to you.
But vegetarian, non-vegetarians can eat rice.
Sorry, vegetarians can eat
Non-vegetarians. I like a lot of meat. I would say some sort of gum. Okay, so one of the animals gets out of that. Someone tries to take the gum.
Yeah. Carry cigarette pack. Yeah, you want beer?
I want beer.
What else? Yeah, you have to prioritize. I'll write all the list. I will see chicken mutton.
Coffee and tea. Yeah, on the other.
Okay, we don't have to worry about tea and coffee. We'll be wearing clothes. We don't need clothes.
It's okay, we live in the same
It's not essential. It's not essential to have clothes. There's more essential items. We can be al natural. So what we got so far?
green and the other. We have to prioritize.
So we've got rice, we've got water, purifier. What's the other one?
Next, catch the fish.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Matchstick or something. Cooker, how many guys? We need no gas.
You're going to set fire on a wooden arm.
Yeah, we need gas.
Maybe a bit dangerous.
Yeah.
Solar heater.
So we have right now.
Now beer.
Yeah, it's prioritize.
Rice, fish.
Rice, Purifier, and rice and it's only item he asked, he didn't say quantity.
When she came, she
Okay, all of you back to your seats.
Okay. And you'll get coffee, don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry. So we will send it to your seat only. Okay. So just have a seat and we'll continue the
Okay. What is the first or the most important thing that you guys want to carry? Drinking water. Drinking water. Actually, it's a very good thought. You're on the sea. You have water available everywhere.
But who said we are on the sea?
Huh?
Where
Where else are you?
So we could be in a river, it's a flood, right?
Yeah.
Nobody told that we are in a sea.
Okay, you're on river, right? You're still on
We
water.
need to clean the water.
River is a normal generator.
We need to clean the water still.
That's why it's important. Does it not make more sense to carry a water purifier as against carrying water?
No.
because your purifier will go bad. So to repair that, you might have to carry something else. So might as well carry water.
Instead of carrying water,
should have a vessel for collecting water from the rain.
Let's call it water or purifier. What are the other things? Correct? And then first aid box. Okay. First aid box. Okay. And food. Dry fruits. Okay. What else?
Burning also.
Net to catch fish. Net, okay. Net for fishing. Okay, what else?
warm clothes.
Warm clothes? No, I'm just listing. Warm clothes.
Yeah, we had got knife and rice also.
Anyone has anything apart from this? Forget the order. Knife.
Knife, correct.
Okay. Clear. Cigarette, knife and jacket.
Oxygen cylinder.
We're making it.
Some carpentry elements to repair the boat if it goes bad.
Okay.
Tools.
That's a good one.
Okay, what else? Anything different from what is listed here? We have water or purifier, first aid, dry fruit, stones, fishing net, clothes, knife, jacket, tools. Matchbox? Cigarettes? Microwave?
I like the way you think.
Well, instead of matchbox to cook, what we are talking about is solar cooker.
Compass or
Okay.
Using technology to the peaks. We have rice as well.
Okay, now that you've thought about these 10 or 11 things, what is it that can be eliminated? Matchbox. Right? See, you're really talking about survival and a maximum of 5 things. So when you have stones, you could also use that to light it. Of course, we would be called primitive or Stone Age people. But you could still use that, right? Do you still need a matchbox? Is there any other use that you guys want matchbox for? No, right? So you can strike it off. And knife. Okay. Solar cooker. You strike it off.
How will you cook this?
How will you cook it?
How would you light fire on the ship?
You can't put fire on a ship, you'll burn the ship.
And look at this. What exactly are you going to put fire into? You cannot carry a lot of wood, right? And that's the reason we thought, forget about stone, forget about matchbox, let's take that solar
Use the
cooker.
natural resources.
Yeah.
Right. So, what are you going to cook with the solar cooker? You're carrying dry fruits.
Huh?
Fish.
We wanted rice and fish.
We have some masala on that fish. So, okay, hold on. The idea here is, of course, we can continue, but in the interest of time, let me just cut it off. The idea here is to think about your backlog, look at it, and see what is it that you can eliminate from your backlog. One of the principles in Agile is simplicity. We are maximizing the amount of work not done, right? You might not be in a position to knock it off, but you can definitely recommend it. You might not have the final say, but your inputs will and have to be taken. So the idea is look at your backlog as a whole, see if there are redundant things, see if there's gold plating. Now here when we were talking about it, we had we had Matchbox, so very limited use for it, right? We already have stone. We want to light fire, we can still do that with stones. Of course, it might be a pretty a non an unconventional way of doing it, or a primitive way of doing it, difficult way of doing it, but it's still manageable, right? Because you're talking about your survival kit, right? So whatever we talked about now are the kind of conversations that you want to go back and have with your teams, especially with your product management and product owner. Tell them that without this, will our product work? If no, what is it that we're going to use? Because it's easy for the product owner or product management to come back and tell you like our product cannot sustain in the market without this. But what are we going to do? Are we going to lose one or two customers, or is it a threat to our survival? Right? Not all the ethics can be discussed this way, but at least most of them can. Right. So there is something called as
One second. Let's give that right again.
so yeah, pretty something interesting. Okay, some teams that I worked with had makeup on the list, and one person had a mango sapling on the list because he was fond of mangoes. I thought he would be the best person to air in a Mazda or a slice ad along with Katrina. But yeah, he said I want to go back, plant the mango sapling because after the flood goes out, I don't know if there'll be any mangoes left or not.
In fact,
For him, it was a matter of survival.
in fact, our team, we decided that we are all together, no gloves.
Interesting. Okay. Again, water, probably one of the options. If you had a choice of carrying water or a water purifier, you might probably want to invest on an efficient water purifier than carrying water. Because you already have water all around you. You are in water. Right? You might want to take it, purify it, and put it. These are some of the things, I might not have visibility in your backlog, into your backlog, but probably if you want to go back and look at it, you might have a few things here that would work, or really critical epics or user stories that work if there is a small tweak in your system, or something that works with just a configuration change. It's just that we need to be open to think about it.
Life of Pi, watching that movie.
Give a lot of choices for this. Yes. Okay, so what is important is having a minimum marketable feature or MVP, minimum viable product, depends on what term is. Minimum marketable features. So minimum set of features with which your product should go on. Right? Or it's also referred to as MVP, so it depends on which naming convention what you would call it. So always try to have an MVP which is a set of must-haves. Nothing beyond that. Even within must-haves, when you look at it, there will always be things that can be spoken of. Think about it this way. And always, whenever you have the MVP done, always go back and think after doing it, before starting a sprint, after your sprint, take a look at your MVP, see if it is really minimal, or if you can cut down anything further. More often than not, you will be able to, by means of replacing something with something else, or coming up with another way of doing it. So that's pretty much what I want to talk about. Hope this was a very good.
So what you're talking about in last slide and before that, is it more of a product owner job to do than a team? Or are you talking about a team?
See, as I said, product owner is accountable for this, not responsible, still the team. So at the end of the day, it is the team who visualizes or materializes the MVP. The sprint backlog is materialized by the team, not the product owner. Product owner has a set of requirements, but as team can we go back and question product owner saying, can we reduce this further?
Essentially having MMM, right? So to go with that logic, how do you differentiate your product? You need to have some.
Within your MMM, you could have a USP, right?
Yeah, so there has to be something different from just MMM.
Your MMF has got nothing to do with your competitor or your USP. For example, if all your
product like any other product in the market.
if all your competitors are none of your competitors, for example, are mobile. If you are, that is your USP. So what you are talking about is where we as a product, so where we as a product stand among our competitors is different from what an analyst is.
Time to market.
That is mostly the
No, not time to market, minimum set of features with which we can go to market. Okay, any other questions?
In Agile, they say they do risky things faster. So do risky things faster. So fail fast. So is there also another point to the calculation?
That you probably might want to consider when you're doing your account. If there is something that is really risky and is giving you a lot of return. See, it's not so much of a risk alone, but a combination of a risk and business value that it is. So if it is really very risky and is giving you very minimal business value, you might not want to consider that. So it's not only risk, it's a combination of both risk and business value.
One thing that what we had experienced across is typically the product owner and the Scrum Master, they talk about the term of like estimate less and deliver more, which is also safer bet. But once the team is working for considerable amount of time, you can get rough velocity that how much they can take up. So you plan on that, and team is really capable, they can excel and they can deliver more than estimate a lot and then deliver less.
That's more of a team thing, the way how we
What are the tools that you have been using to create a backlog? Which is
one really very effective tool which works most of the time as long as the team is disciplined is Excel. Good question. Okay, the question was, we don't estimate in hours. We estimate the story points, but ultimately we convert whatever we estimate from story points to hours, right? See, we don't start with estimating in hours. That happens over a period of time. When we mature as a team, when our estimates mature, when the way we estimate start maturing, we will start seeing some correlation between our story point estimate and ours. Maybe over a period of time, most of our extra small tasks would be finished within a day, over a period of time. But that does not mean all our extra small should now be called a one-day task. Not really. Most of the tasks fall into brackets of time and complexity, but that happens maybe after 6 months, 8 months, or a year, maybe even more. It depends on how mature the person is.
Can a one-story pointer story can have certain tasks which are exceeding 20 hours?
Again, the same answer. Story points and hours are distinct. You cannot compare them as at least until you are completely mature. There could be a one-story pointer which could take 3 days. There could also be a 4-story pointer which is taking 1 day. But if all your one-story pointers take 3 days and all your 4-story pointers take 1 day, then you have something fundamentally wrong in your system. If there are one-odd cases, it's fine. I mean, Michael Cohen wrote about this in one of his blogs. He says 80% of your estimates should fall in a time bracket over a period of time. So that will give you a time predictability also when you are looking at estimates. But that happens when you as a team mature, your estimates become stronger, when you learn from your mistakes with estimates.
So oftentimes we get some of these stories on which we need to become spike stories. Okay? So when we are successful on the spike, we reduce the estimate, the high level estimation which we did for that particular actual story, we reduce that estimation. In the course of development,
Sorry, if you talk to the one question, if it requires 5 tasks,
excuse
why
me,
did you
guys.
estimate it first?
Could we take to the open house? Yeah? Right? Sorry about that, but please write them down, right? There's already one question for the open house in the whiteboard, so please more. Break time now. I will pass on the quiz